Let me call you sweetheart. I'm in love with you.
Welcome to the B-List,
where we talk about everything we love to hate.
and all the things that we hate to love.
I'm Tara,
I'm Courtney, and
and this is our maiden voyage on our podcast.
it is our maiden
This is
voyage.
our
We're so
first
excited
time.
here. We've got the giggles a little bit.
A little bit nerve-wracking, but I think we picked an excellent topic for our first episode.
Right. Well, we just passed the Halloween season.
Yes,
And we're getting well into November, but I did get to see, a lot of my classics that I have to watch every year.
of course.
And one of those classics is Nightmare on Elm Street.
Now, this is a movie that is like near and dear to my heart. It was my first horror movie that I saw as a child.
Mm-hmm.
Way too young because I grew up in the 80s when there was no
I know. Why did our parents let us watch this?
no one cared what you were watching or what you were doing. I was probably smoking cigarettes and having like a pint of liquor while I was watching it. I think I was like 6. I remember watching it on HBO at my house, like in the shag carpet, on hands and knees, like I'm pretty sure I was by myself. I don't even think my parents were watching it with me.
I
don't
can't
even
remember
know.
who I watched it with. My uncle is relatively close in age. He's a couple of years older than me, and he probably with one of his friends had rented it, and I watched it with them, and then was scared for the next like 4 years of my life.
I mean, I don't have huge memories of being scared of it, but I do remember my dad recorded it for me on like VHS back when you could like pirate movies and it wasn't a big deal. And I remember watching it like every day after school, every day, just like.
It took me a couple of years to watch it again after I saw it the first time because it took a long time for me to actually be able to fall asleep and not worry about Freddy coming for me.
Oh, I still worried about it every night. Like, my sister and I shared a bed at the time, and every night we had to, like, check under the bed. We had to, like, shut the closet door, had to shut the bedroom door, like, and I was, like, notorious for telling all the friends and kids in the neighborhood, like, just as a PSA, just so you know, you will be murdered in your sleep. Make sure you close your closet. I don't know what it was with closets. He never came out of a closet.
No, I don't remember that, and it wasn't until I watched probably by about the third sequel that it was like all of the creative ways that he came around. It was like I was afraid of everything in the house, even the toaster, and I don't even know what the
See,
toaster.
for me, it was like the first one for me was the scariest. Like, they progressively got cheesier and cheesier, and Freddy's talking and making like funny comments about everything, and he's got like dad jokes for days about murdering people. Like, so for me, it was like less like when he's like with the pizza and some poor kid's fingers, like he's got their head on a pizza and he's like eating it. It's like not as scary to me. But the first one was like, oh god. Like,
well, yeah, because he would just pop in and out of nowhere, and he was actually invading these people's homes too. These kids' homes.
Right, and you didn't know anything at that time. You didn't know anything about him, so like what you don't know about, you're more scared of.
Yeah, exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. We are drinking some champagne. Well, we call it champagne, but it's actually Kirkland brand. Let me get the bottle and show
sure.
anybody who's watching.
Anyone who's also a fan of Costco, which, who isn't?
Let's see. It's Kirkland brand Prosecco Rosé.
Yeah.
So it's pinkish.
Tastes just like Costco.
It tastes like Costco. It's good. But we figured it's perfect for the B-list as
B-list ladies,
we're
B-list
B-list
topics.
ladies. I never was
B-list
a popular
alcohol.
kid. So.
No, not at all.
So I feel comfortable being able to call ourselves the B-list because we know about everything B-list.
Yeah.
Let's get started here. Now you have all the information over there with you on the 1984
The original. So I did a little search, did a little Googling. It came out November 9th, 1984, which means, I remember, I don't know why I remember it coming out when I was like, because in 1984, I was 2. So.
I had just turned 5.
Yeah. So, it had already, I guess, made it to cable by the time I watched it. So obviously I don't remember it coming out. Opening weekend, it was a limited release of 165 theaters around the country. It grossed $1.271 million, which like, it was like record breaking at that time. Like, it had made a lot of money because they only put like, I don't know how much money they put into making it. The budget was 1.1 million. So like
1.1 million?
Yeah.
That's so little.
So little.
1.1
Which
million.
I don't know what that would be today. I should have done like the research to see what that would be today. But it grossed $57 million worldwide. When you put $1 million, I mean, that's not bad.
That's not too bad, no.
It's not too bad for a movie about some horribly burned person.
And then you got to think too. I wonder what all the franchising, like the Halloween costumes, and there had to be there were toys.
Yeah. Oh yeah, toys
and it spawned something way bigger. I mean, how many? I don't even know.
I mean, fedoras were not cool, and then after that,
you
got a fedora.
Mean, come on,
sweaters
now. Who can
for days,
resist a man in a fedora?
Striped sweaters. Everyone had to have one.
Yeah.
Obviously, okay, so the original stars Heather Langenkamp, obviously, as Nancy. Robert Englund is Fred. And I read online that Wes Craven, they were looking for someone who was going to look kind of weaselly. At first, they wanted a big dude, like a giant, like, Michael Myers, like, giant guy.
Right.
But he's like, no, I was kind of picturing, like, a Weasley, like, and then you see Robert Englund with no makeup on, and you're like, he kind of does have, like, a rat face a little bit.
I remember seeing Robert Englund in a it wasn't a TV, it was a TV series, V, I believe it was, where it was about aliens or something. It came out not too long or around the same time.
Okay.
And he was in that show too. And I remember Mom and Dad going, "That's Freddy Krueger." And I was like, but he has a normal face. I mean, as normal as Robert
Those
Englund.
scars healed really well.
Right.
Look at him.
Right.
Must not have picked at it.
But yeah, and even now to this day, whenever I see Robert Englund in anything, I'm just like, that's Freddy Krueger.
That's Freddy Krueger.
Doesn't
matter what it is. Yeah.
Else.
I mean, and of course, this is Johnny Depp's debut movie.
Oh, yeah.
They tried to get Charlie Sheen, actually, but he wanted too much money. So,
I can see that, though. That probably would have worked, too. But you know what, though? I can't see it with anybody else other than Johnny Depp.
Who else do you want to see sucked into a bed?
Right. And turned into a blood fountain.
In his little half shirt.
His crop top.
His little crop top and headphones. I mean, rocking it. Nick Corey as Rod, or his given name is Jesus Garcia, but for in the movie, like his stage name was Nick Corey. A little known fact, I mean, it's not a little known fact, he is a burn victim, but the makeup artist was looking at tons of pictures of UCLA burn victims.
Yeah.
From the medical center, like, to base Freddy's makeup on, which I feel like it progresses differently. Like, you can tell that they've used different makeup artists throughout the whole course of the series, because, like, in the first one, I feel like it's a lot gooier. It's real sticky, kind of like those wounds are very fresh. Like,
lots of KY on that.
Lots of KY, drippy. I don't know what they use. Something it's very liquidy. And then
though it worked though, because especially whenever there was any scenes of like fire or in the boiler room, the way the lights would reflect off of his face, it just looked gross.
Yeah. And then jumping ahead, but there's the scene in the movie where like he like stretches, like he scratches his chest. There's like guts hanging out or whatever. It's not a burned chest. When you see later on in the series and he shows his chest, he's like burned.
Yeah.
Like everywhere.
Full body suit.
So that's a little.
How much time did all that makeup take, I wonder?
Jeez, I don't want to think about it. Poor guy.
And
they didn't even know how to do anything back then, It was
right.
the 80s. like they tested it. Nope.
I know, it really did.
Hours and hours. That's why you wear a sweater, because like,
right.
Could you imagine if he was shirtless in that boiler room? Like, it would have taken forever.
Sexy Krueger in the boiler room.
Sexy Krueger in the boiler room. No, even in like beach scenes later on, he's wearing that sweater.
Yeah. Yeah. It really was one of those movies too that set my love for like everything horror too. I know that you don't play a whole lot of video games, but I love playing horror survival games.
Yeah.
And I loved video games like Silent Hill and Resident Evil, where there's the sound effect and the almost like whenever you go into these worlds, it's like an upside down world.
Yeah.
Like from Stranger Things.
Yeah.
And that's one of the things that that's one of the first things that I loved about Nightmare on Elm Street 2, was that it was always like this alternate world. It was flipped upside down.
Yeah. And it was kind of the start of like the slasher kind of like, well, I mean, obviously like all the other ones like Halloween and stuff like that were kind of slasher movies too. But it was like the beginning of like Final Girls, who ends, I mean, with the exception of the second Nightmare on Elm Street, which of course,
you know, why don't we go on to the boiler room?
Let's do it.
With the magic of television. For those of you who are not listening, we were just, or who are listening only and not seeing us on our video, we were just whisked away to our boiler room, where Freddy is probably, he may be cooking dinner right now, so I don't want to bug
We
him.
don't want to, I mean, you got to watch those pots.
Yeah,
You
well,
can't-
you know.
you don't want it to overflow. That's just embarrassing.
He doesn't want to get burned.
So Wes Craven got the idea for this from reading LA Times articles. The 1970s Cambodian refugees would have these nightmares, and then they would die soon after they would have these nightmares. And they called it Asian death syndrome, which I'm not sure we're supposed to call it that now, but
Well, I mean,
it's just like sudden unexplained deaths that happen during your sleep, like your heart stops and things like that. And he kept reading articles about it, and it terrified him. And
Yeah.
he was like, this would make a really good movie. So it's kind of
Yeah.
funny how it's just all white children in the movies, but
well,
which is kind of a thing. Like, it's just now to where there's like not the token black kid who gets murdered in these movies. Like,
right?
like there weren't I mean, there were several throughout the series. I think there was like, after the first and second one, I think there was like one black kid maybe per, or Hispanic kid per movie, but they
Yeah.
always got murdered in the beginning, and then
Yeah.
it was like,
That's always been like the trope, is that
Yes,
the
like-
minority.
yes, if you're a
race.
minority and you find yourself in a horror movie, just go home.
Just go home.
Excuse yourself from the
Just
situation.
make new friends.
Make new friends, preferably all black kids or people of color, and then you're safe.
Then you're safe.
Because they're not going to make a movie about you probably for another like 30, 40 years. So.
No. Right.
I just recently watched Get Out, and that was like really good. Did you see Get Out?
Yes, I did. It was amazing.
I really liked it, and I was like, oh man, like
Yeah. Yeah, it was, that one is good. He's who was it that
Jordan
did that?
Peele.
Jordan Peele. Yeah.
Yeah.
He's like got the market like cornered on the race relation slash horror.
it was really
slash-
it was really good.
Yeah,
and
it was very good.
it was kind of scary and kind of like, oh man, is this where we are now? Yeah, it's crazy. It's definitely commentary, especially now with like it's just a fact. Like, if you're a person of color in America and you go missing, even if it's like in a very well lit, nice area, like in that movie, like you can just, no one's gonna look for you.
Right. Nobody's gonna look for
Nobody's
you.
gonna look for you. It just sucks. It's ridiculous.
One of the things that I think that Nightmare on Elm Street is really known for is the one-liners that
Freddy can rock a one-liner.
can he?
I'm not saying they're great. I'm just saying he has a lot of them.
He's got a lot of them. He's got a sharp wit.
I'm your boyfriend now, Nancy. With that tongue in the phone. Ugh.
I'm your boyfriend now, Nancy.
Oh yeah. And I can't talk on a handheld receiver like that anymore. I'm so glad that we got
If
this.
you pull the phone out of the wall and it rings, don't answer it.
Right.
It's a ghost.
Also,
it's a dead person.
Another lesson that I learned from this movie as well is that even if you're in your dreams, don't investigate
No.
noises
Mm-mm.
in your pajamas or your under. Just get fully dressed. Be like, what was
No.
that noise? Hang on, where are my jeans and my running shoes?
If
And-
you're in the hallway and the hall monitor is dressed like Freddy Krueger, you're in a dream. Wake yourself up.
you are in a dream. You know, and that's another reason that I've never been able to wear any sort of striped sweater at all. I mean, they've all either got to be solid color or
That and it makes me look like the Hamburglar. But
that
yeah.
too. That too. I do have a little trouble with that,
A
but
little bit. Yeah, but definitely, I mean, you're not going to see me wearing green and red stripes.
but it doesn't fail that I'll see a sweater that I wouldn't mind having, but if it's striped, I think no, it's a little too Krugery.
A little too much.
A little
Yeah.
too much. And then, you know, like you said, the vertical stripes on it.
Vertical
too.
stripes, can't wear a fedora. I
it-
just feel wrong.
Yeah. Well,
Either that or I feel like Patrick Stump from Fallout Boy. Either way, I'm posing. It's not a good look.
but even the kids had some of the best lines in there too. I was talking to you earlier about this, like
Yeah.
the character of Rod was talking to Tina, I believe it was.
Yeah.
And he's like, "What? Are you having nightmares? Guys can have nightmares too, you know."
Guys can have nightmares too, you know. You can get a corner on the market or something.
Oh, are you forgetting his best one-liner at the beginning of the movie? Like, you know, Tina's telling everyone, like, they're all walking to school and telling him about nightmares, and Rod's like, I woke up with a boner this morning.
With your name
on it.
And then she's all like, "Well, my name's only 4 letters long. I don't think you have room for that."
I had a hard-on this morning when I woke up, Tina. Had your name written all over it.
There's 4 letters in my name, Rod. How could there be room on your joint for 4 letters?
She called his member his joint.
Yet she still invites him over for a sleepover.
Still invited him over for a sleepover. And okay, so one of my first notes in this whole thing is that, like, why does everyone in the 80s look middle-aged? Tina,
right? When
she died, they specifically said Tina Gray, I think it's her last name, age 15. That girl is not 15.
Right?
She looks like a 35-year-old mother of 3 who works at a diner.
I know, right?
She's not 15. Like, like, Heather Langenkamp always had that kind of younger feel to her. I don't know if it was, like, her hair or all the sweater vests they made her wear, but, like, she did kind of look younger. Rod did not look like a teenager.
No.
Tina did not look like a teenager. She looked like she could be her own mother.
No.
Like,
and
Johnny Depp looked younger.
He looked, you know, and he looks baby-faced watching it now.
Yeah, for sure.
And looking at it, it's like, yeah, he's so baby-faced and young in it. Now, at the time, though, I don't know if he would have really passed for 15 or 16 or whatever.
No.
But
you can crop all the shirts you want. You're not going to look
right. I'm also going to tell you, I never knew one guy who wore a crop top.
No, but I did know. Okay, so when I grew up, we had 2 babysitters in our neighborhood. Shout out to you guys if you're watching. There was a kid that lived across the street. He was a football player. He was our babysitter. His name's Chad, which is, again, if you're going to wear a crop top,
Chad,
your name's
the
going to be
person
Chad.
who's going to do it.
He would wear them, but you definitely had to have a certain body type to wear that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't know any girls that were in the 80s.
I don't think we were allowed to wear it.
No,
Most
definitely not at school or anything like that. There was one kid, okay, so, like, you know the scene in the movie where, like, Nancy's sitting, like, in class, like, falling asleep or whatever. The creepy kid is, like, reading some poem or something at the beginning of the class.
Yeah.
And you have bad dreams. Like, I don't know what he says. I was gonna write it down, but I got sidetracked. Like, she wakes up, whatever, she's, like, flailing or whatever. She's burned her arm because, like, she saw Freddy in the dream. And, like, I'm looking at all the kids in the class. One guy has a full mustache and gigantic, like, Jeffrey Dahmer style glasses and an afro. It's like the one black guy they got for this movie sits in front of Nancy. And then the teacher, I don't know if you recognize the teacher. She was Magda from
Yes.
Something About Mary.
Yeah, it's Magda from Something About Mary. Also, I also know her from
she's been in everything.
She's always in something, but she also wasn't she like one of the moms in Detroit Rock City too?
She was. Yeah. Yeah, but it's so funny to, like, when I see her dressed as, like, a normal person, it always freaks me out because I always think of her with, like, the big blonde bouffant and, like, all the wrinkles and the weird, like,
right. And then whenever you think about it too, I mean, she has always kind of looked older to me anyway. Like, she, even in Nightmare on Elm Street, she looked like...
She's one of those actresses or actors, whatever, that just always looks the same.
She just looks the same. You know her when you see her.
Right. Yeah.
She's every mom, every Magda.
Okay, so what else we got to discuss right now?
Well, I did notice when I was watching it through this time, whenever Tina, she's the first real death, I guess
First
it
kill,
was,
yeah.
for the first kill that you see on camera. And as she's getting slashed and thrown about the room, Rod sits there, and he kind of backs over to the corner of the room, and he is not that reactive, not as reactive as I would be. I'd be like, holy hell, and opening the door and going, guys, you gotta see this.
I would have probably gotten some help.
Yeah.
I probably would have been screaming for something.
Right. And the last thing I would have done, because he hightails it out too and just takes off.
In his underwear.
Doesn't tell his friends where they're going. He just leaves behind a slashed body, and then they're like...
Yeah.
I guess we'll call the cops now.
Yeah. So I read a lot about and saw a documentary about like as far as like special effects and stuff go. The scene for Tina where she's getting thrown around the room and the scene where Johnny Depp is sucked into the bed and blood is squirting over. They use the same technology where they are like the director is stationary and the room is like spinning. So like that's how they got her to like I don't know how they got her like but she's flinging everywhere.
That was what was great about those.
Did they just shove that poor girl around?
I guess
Like,
so. They just
can't afford a body double.
Yo-yoed her.
Boom! They just throw her
Sorry.
around. You're in her underwear. You're getting torn apart. You're fine. It's whatever.
well, you know, they only had
You're not
what,
part of the
what was it,
union, it's
$1.5
fine.
million.
Right.
So.
Yeah. It's amazing what they were able to do too. Like one of my favorite scenes that really creeped me out is where she's like, I don't remember exactly what nightmare it was, but she's like, Nancy is running up the stairs. And there's like, you know, she's like falling through the staircase. She
It's all
can't look at
marshmallowy and sticky.
pancake mix.
Pancake mix?
It was made with pancake mix.
I thought they used marshmallow fluff.
That's
what I was
thought
thinking.
because it would be sticky and gross.
And
no.
it stretches and
Yeah,
all that.
it was pancake mix.
Oh, wow.
I'm like, that's not what Bisquick intended. And I was gonna mention, I don't know, like one of my favorite scenes of the movie is where, you know, like they're having the sleepover or whatever, and she's asleep. Nancy is asleep, and you see like Freddy Krueger's head like come through the wall. Remember, like he's like reaching for her kinda, and then he like disappears again. Spandex. They made the wall.
It was spandex.
It was made of spandex.
I figured it was latex or something like that, but then I also thought latex.
Because they didn't have CGI back then. They couldn't do fun
Yeah.
stuff like that. You had to like, I feel like you had to be way more creative back then.
Well,
I'm
that's
sure
what I love
spandex
about.
is way cheaper than, you know, CGIing someone's face through the wall. You know?
Yeah, I love the practical effects of the 80s.
Yeah,
Everything is CGI now. I think that in the remake, which I'll touch on in just a little bit, in the remake they do a CGI wall, and it does not have the same effect as the original.
Right, because it was
Freddy
really
coming
happening.
for
It was like, it wasn't CGI. It was like
something to
actually
react
something was
to.
happening. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was really interesting. I read that they used 500 gallons of blood for
500 gallons.
It's a lot of gallons. It's a lot of.
So did they use
I'm
the
sure
same
half of that-
blood, or did
yeah.
did they just
mean,
make the corn syrup and red food dye?
I'm not really
hack?
sure what they used, but that's a crap ton of blood. Like I'm sure half of that was just for the scene where poor Johnny Depp did the big one in his half shirt.
Right.
Although at some point when I was watching, I was like, that's Kool-Aid. That's for sure Kool-Aid. Like it didn't even look very. It was just so thinned out. It's like that's not real blood. There's
Right.
no way. It's just so much.
Well, I
too
don't think
much.
how you would get it to flow like that either. I mean, even if they did
Right, because if it's cornstarch, it's just sticky. It's not as
it drips.
drippy,
It doesn't fountain out like that. And
yeah.
bubble.
I don't know.
I know that another line that I thought was hilarious that I didn't before, because you know it was in these horror movies, another one of those tropes is always like the parents just don't understand, they don't believe you and all
No
that
one
stuff.
believes you when you have a
Well-
psychotic murderer in your dreams trying to kill you.
Well, whenever Nancy is, I guess it's whenever she's at the police station and she's giving her account of what happened and how
Yeah.
she doesn't know that doesn't happen.
Yeah.
And I think it's her mom. What does she say? Maybe you don't think murder is serious.
Maybe you don't think murder is serious.
It's just like, how do you don't think I don't take her death seriously?
Yeah.
Oh my god!
I was like, that's really how you would talk to your baby girl after your baby girl
After
just
her
watched her best friend
be murdered
Yeah.
by what you think is probably her boyfriend. Why is their boy sleeping at the house anyways?
Right.
But it's so funny because like the whole movie, they're like, oh, that Nancy, she's a nut. Like, she's crazy. But then at the end when her mom gets real drunk and she's like, come downstairs. Let me show you something.
I got something to show you.
I got something to show you. There actually was a guy named this, and this is what happened to him. We murdered him.
We murdered him, but it was for you guys.
Here's his club.
That's another point I wanted to talk about too.
Why would you keep the evidence in your house?
Okay. So they're like, why didn't you go to the police? Or should Nancy ask her, why didn't you go to the police? They're like, we did, but a warrant wasn't signed in the right place, so he got off scot-free. And I was like, they didn't keep the glove as the glove.
The glove? There's no glove as evidence?
They didn't keep the glove as evidence. But she takes this glove and she's like, I'm going to shove it up my furnace, and
I'm just gonna leave it in my furnace.
so that way I can show my teenage daughter someday. but
Someday he's gonna come. He'll find a way to murder you.
Someday he's going to infiltrate their dreams.
And I feel like one of the big differences too between like the remake and the original is that like in the original, I mean, I guess I always kind of implied, I guess because I grew up in the 80s and had a messed up childhood, that he was a diddler. Like, he was a diddler and also a murderer.
I thought it was implied too, because
They
there was
never
always
mention it.
they didn't, and I was looking for it too. But and the only thing I could think of is like whenever he would say stuff like, you know, I'm your boyfriend now, Nancy.
I'm your boyfriend
and your
now,
tongue and
killing them when
everything.
they're naked, like, you know, if you have sex, you're gonna get murdered, like
Right.
that kind of thing. But I feel like it's more direct in the remake than it is
In the remake, they just come out and say he was a kid diddler.
He was a diddler.
And now, talking about the remake, I watched it again. Now, that one came out, and I got some facts about that one, too. Let's see. Now, the remake, Jackie Earle Haley was the Freddy Krueger in
Which
it.
I can't see as anyone but when he was in the Watchmen, and he was like...
When he was
Rorschach.
Rorschach.
Yeah,
Yeah,
in the Watchmen.
and he actually was a child actor. He was in the Bad News Bears as a kid.
I mean, but he also kind of has that rat face look about him that Robert Englund does, but man, Robert Englund...
Well, you know, I had read that he's only like 5'6", and so to make him look more intimidating because, you know, Freddy Krueger, like you mentioned earlier, that they were wanting to be hulking, but he was supposed to be a little squirrelier. He was even bigger than Jackie Earle Haley, and they had to use like camera techniques and all that other stuff to make him look bigger,
like shooting from down below,
right? Shooting from below and having him up on platforms and stuff like that.
Actors.
And I think he actually did a really good job at it. I read that Wes Craven was not on board with the remake. However, Robert Englund was. He thought that
just I can see how it's hard when you like. I mean, he was so attached to it, you know, like that's his legacy, and then someone wants to remake it. It's kind of like saying like "F you" to what you did. I'm gonna
right.
Like, no disrespect. I'm gonna recreate a whole other one though. Like, I don't know. I would probably have a problem with it too. Like, and I did. I saw it. I've probably seen it maybe twice.
Yeah. I rewatched it again a couple of nights ago just to kind of refresh it because I think I saw it. Oh, I think I probably got it on Netflix whenever they were still sending out DVDs.
Back in the olden days of
back
Netflix.
back in the before times.
Yes, before times.
And I remember not watching it, not really liking it then because it wasn't like they changed the story slightly and all
It's
that.
not, I mean, you have to go into it kind of thinking of it as a whole other...
It was just a reimagining.
A whole other thing.
Yeah.
Like, it's not like that. It's a different thing.
And then when I watched it the other night, I realized, watching it, that actually maybe we gave it too hard of a rap because it was darker, it was angrier.
Yeah.
Did you know that after the heart stops beating, the brain keeps functioning for well over 7 minutes? We got 6 more minutes to play.
And then, you know, they painted him as this, you know, hardcore diddler.
Hardcore diddler.
And
That's
band name. You went drag.
That's my drag name. It's come out.
I went band.
Full Freddy Krueger attire. Both like giant hair and eyelashes.
There you go. But yeah, he lived in the basement of a preschool, which... Who lets anybody live in a basement in a preschool?
You're asking for a diddler if you invite a grown man to live in
Exactly.
the basement of... No shade to men, but if you're inviting a grown man to live in the basement of your... Why is there a basement in the preschool, too, is what I want to know.
Right? I mean...
That's where you would diddle, obviously.
And then they talk about, oh, we killed this guy because you kids were coming home and telling us stories, and then we took matters into our own hands. They don't even call the cops with this one. They just take matters into their own hands and kill the guy.
Which happens in real life.
Which
Things
does
like
happen
that
in real life. Yeah, oh yeah. But they, but you know, right smack dab in the middle of the movie, they make it look like, well, he didn't do it after all. He just liked playing and hanging out with the kids. And he even convinces the kids. The kids at first are like, you killed a guy based on what a bunch of kids were telling you. And no wonder he's angry and coming after us because he's angry that we lied about it.
Right.
And then so they're like, we have to find the truth about him. And so they go and find his little lair.
It's where you kind of create your own reality, like rather than believe the truth. You've created the monster that
Right.
you.
Well, they had forgotten completely about their preschool days at this point because throughout the movie they're like, oh, we didn't meet till high school. How are we in these preschool pictures together and all that stuff?
Yeah.
Because they had blocked the memory out or whatever. And then they find the lair and then they find pictures of Nancy, which you never get to see the pictures, and I'm glad that they didn't.
Yeah.
You know, they just kind of left the mystery
Yeah.
about it. And then, you know, you realize at that point, yeah, he had kids down there and he was taking pictures of them and it was all true.
Yeah.
And, you know, there were a few similarities, but the similarities were few and far between. They kept a couple of lines in.
Yeah. I mean, it's hard to, like, pay tribute to it if the guy's not really down for what you're doing. Like,
Right.
You don't want to steal a bunch of lines from his movie when he's
right.
like, no, I'm not about this life.
And in this movie, it was given, I was reading that the 1984 version, the original, had 7.5 stars on IMDb, 95% on the tomato meter, and on Rotten Tomatoes, and 84% audience score. And then, but the 2010 only had 5.2 stars on IMDb, 15% on the tomato meter, and only 43% audience score. And I really, in retrospect, watching this, I don't think it got a fair shake because the nostalgia factor really kind of
that's what it is.
automatically
like,
just.
If they were to remake it in like 2040 or something, when all of us are old and don't give a crap anymore, and
Don't
we're not
remember it.
we're not scoring any of this stuff on the internet,
Right.
then maybe it would stand a better chance.
Right.
But now we're angry and we have computers, so
Right.
we're just
Now the remake, like I said, Jackie Earle Haley was Freddy, and there was a lot of you know, now we know the actors from the original Nightmare on Elm Street, but these guys in the remake were pretty well unknown. I think that the biggest name was Kellen Lutz was in it,
from
and it was
Twilight.
from Twilight, and it took me a minute to realize who he was. Because, well, you know, because I hadn't seen Twilight.
Because he didn't have
since
a
about that
backwards
time.
ball cap on, and
Right.
you know, like,
Well, no, because, you know, in Twilight, he had, like, the amber color eyes or the black eyes,
Right.
depending on
So
how
he had his
hungry
own-
they were. I think why I didn't recognize him at first was because he had those contacts in the Twilight. And that's really the only thing I think I've seen him in other than bit parts in anywhere else.
I remember when Twilight came out too, and he was supposed to be like the next like Brad Pitt. Like they were
Right.
like, "Oh, he's so hot, he's gonna be in everything." I'm like,
So it opens with him in the original or in the remake. He's in the original the opening scene, and he didn't have any of those contacts in, so he has like normal eyes, and I'm like, wait a minute, which one is this guy?
Who's this
I know,
doofus?
who's this doofus? And so yeah, it was just normal-eyed Lutz.
That's my drag name.
Normal-eyed Lutz.
Normal-eyed Lutz.
But he plays the character of Dean, and he was the top billed actor on this, and that was a
There's
wrap
your
on him.
problem. They should have gotten better known actors too.
Right. Well, he was
like-
probably too expensive. He was riding that Twilight wave coming in, like, pay me more. And they're like, we only need you about 4 minutes. So
Well, yeah, and they used what's his face Haley for Freddy Krueger, but the only like his best known thing is Rorschach,
where he has a mask
where he has a
most of
mask
them
on. You don't
the
even
time.
see his face.
Yeah. And so they kept a couple of the character. I think the only character name that they kept besides Freddy Krueger, obviously, was Nancy.
Mm-hmm.
And
Which I'm sorry, no one would name their child Nancy now. So.
no, not in this day and age. But
Are you your own grandma?
right. Now we're gonna get into some time bending.
Time bending kind of sci-fi stuff.
But Nancy was played by Rooney Mara, and then
I mean, she's known now.
yeah, I've seen her in a few other things, but I can't really what else has she been in?
Was she not the one the dragon tattoo, like the American version of?
Oh,
Girl
you know
with the
what? I
Dragon
never
Tattoo?
saw
I think
those.
that's her. Real weird looking. gal, you know.
I don't remember seeing her in those.
I think that was her, maybe. I don't know.
I don't
you
know.
guys can correct us later.
But there's also one of the, I guess he was kind of the main dude that helps Nancy would, get
The
Kruger.
Glenn of it all.
The Glenn was, the character's name is actually Quentin Smith. Which is my stepson's name.
stepson.
So
Shout out
that
to
threw me.
Quentin. What
Shout
up,
out to
dude?
Quentin. Love you.
Love you.
But, yeah, so that was kind of a trip for me going, get out of there, Quentin. Where's your mother?
Quentin Smith. You come to my house right now.
The Tina character's name was Chris, and that was played by Katie Cassidy. Katie Cassidy, yes.
Anytime there's a girl named Chris and not like Christina, or you know what it probably is, Christina. They
It's
use
a short.
Tina. She
Tina.
used Chris. Okay.
Chris,
Yeah,
so.
okay. But anytime I think of anyone named Chris, I automatically go back to like Carrie and the bitch and Carrie
Yeah.
who's like throwing tampons at her.
Yeah,
I don't
right.
trust a girl named Chris. I'm sorry.
Mhm.
Sorry if your name is Chris.
Well, my
Don't throw
aunt's,
tampons at people.
my aunt's name is Chris, but,
Sorry, Aunt Chris.
Love you, Chris.
Love you, Chris. I mean, maybe you're all right.
And then there's Jesse, who was the replacement for Rod's character. And that was played by Thomas Decken. I haven't,
tell you.
I
I
couldn't
don't know.
tell you. But anyway, and also Clancy Brown and Connie Britton are in it for, Connie Britton plays Nancy's mom, and Clancy Brown plays one of their dads and also a school teacher. And all you really know about the two of those characters is they killed Freddy.
I mean,
So,
they peaked.
yeah.
That's.
I mean, there's literally no parent, like at least
I
in
do
the
love some
original.
Connie Britton though. The hair on.
I
the
like Clancy Brown. I mean,
The hair on her is just amazing.
oh yeah, she's got amazing
gorgeous
hair.
hair.
And Clancy Brown too.
Clancy Brown.
But yeah, they have even less involvement than they did in the
original.
In the original, the parents did, and so. Also, I don't think that they spent enough time in the remake, like really focusing on like Nancy's downward spiral either. It just shows a bunch of insomniac kids that are like, I'm so tired, I want to take a nap.
Well, yeah, because you see in the original, like, poor little Heather Langenkamp, like, she gets these dark circles under her eyes.
Her hair
and she
starts turning gray.
Her hair turns gray when she's at the sleep clinic, and eventually she's like, just reading like books on survival and stuff.
Yeah.
And like she's haven't slept in days. She has a coffee pot in her room.
Right.
Which is
That was another thing I was laughing at too, is in the original that she's like, good night, Mom, I'm gonna get some sleep. And she's like, good night. No more coffee, or no, get to sleep. And she's like, okay, Mom. And her mom leaves and she gets out another pot of coffee.
giant pots of coffee. Like you couldn't smell
Like
that.
that's what I was thinking. Was like, Mom was all, you smell like coffee, honey.
Where it's either coffee or she is legit taking a deuce under her bed.
Right. She's just like, letting the coffee farts just rip under there.
Right through her. That's why she takes all those baths. Those Freddy baths.
Now that was a scene that they did keep somewhat in the original and the remake as the iconic.
See, for me, that's
bathtub.
what implied he was a diddler, because the poor 15-year-old girl's taking a bath.
And here comes his
He
hand
just like
out.
flips his hand.
Yeah.
Which they did that. I was wondering how they did that, and so I read about it. And how they did that scene was the bathtub was on top of a swimming pool.
Really?
And it was a body double, you guys. That's not really Nancy's boobies. That's Heather Langenkamp did not show her
Oh, okay.
bits. It was a body double.
I kind of figured it was.
Could you imagine that being like your claim to fame? Like,
Right.
I was the boob double for Nancy in Nightmare on Elm Street in 1984.
You know that there are actresses. Well, I say actresses. There are body doubles that just do body doubling.
I mean,
I'm a body doubler.
good work if you can get it, I guess. I don't. That's
I did some body work for the mom in What's Eating Gilbert Grape. I got to work.
again with Johnny Depp.
I know, right? He's a talented actor.
What a mensch. He's a great guy.
But yeah.
It's just, I don't know, but that was a really interesting scene. I really like that, where she got pulled under, and then she's like
Yeah.
screaming bloody murder. Her mom breaks the door open, and she's like, "Sorry, I just fell asleep in the tub."
Oh, sorry. I'm okay.
I'm sorry, Mom.
I'm sorry.
My bad. I didn't mean to. Sorry.
Yeah.
I'd be like, you are going to a hospital. There's
Right.
something seriously wrong with you. They take her to one sleep clinic, and they're like,
And you know
"Oh,"
what?
and then they're drugging her to make her sleep.
And another thing is that the sleep clinics take months to get into.
Oh, for
I
sure.
love how they always like pushes like,
Come on, 15-year-old child with no other health problems, come have
a sleep with us.
nightmares, you say?
Nightmares.
Yeah. I mean, I take all that seriously. Like, I have 2 children. They're 18 and 9. My 9-year-old starting having night terrors when he was about 4.
Uh-huh.
That is the most terrifying thing for me as someone on the outside.
Mm-hmm.
Because he is screaming. You cannot wake him up. You cannot talk to him. You cannot get him to tell you what's wrong.
Mm-hmm.
You just gotta let him thrash about it like a crazy person until he's just not feeling that way anymore.
Oh, I dated somebody who had night terrors.
A grown person?
A grown person who was in
I thought you grew out of that stuff.
No, he
no.
he was also had a myriad of other problems too. But yeah, I first time I saw it happen, he had dozed off watching a movie. And then we were. And
Was it Nightmare on Elm Street?
I think it was the Neverending Story. Actually,
which is another.
I can't remember. It was something.
Germans shouldn't be allowed to make children's
That's what
movies.
it is. But yeah,
The Rock Biter? Are you kidding? What was that weird bat thing?
right?
No, thank you.
That's one of the first movies I remember seeing in the theater with my dad. Was the Neverending.
That
Story
kid was gone all day long in the attic of a building, and no one knew where he was. No one called the police.
No one called the parents. Nothing. No, there was nothing put out. Yeah. We'll have to talk about that one at another point.
Who would win in a battle? Do you think, Freddy Krueger or Falcor?
Oh my gosh. Well, you know what? I just think that. Well, Freddy Krueger, he's gonna win most of the time because how many sequels did the Neverending Story get? Not that many. Couple.
Because Falcor could kill somebody.
Straight to
I think
VHS.
Falcor could have just like batted him away like a cat would, like patang, and just knocked him into the never-ending ocean
Maybe.
or something.
I'm gonna have to think about that one.
Try and diddle the Empress, you're gonna get smashed.
But again, some of the things that I did really like about the remake as opposed to the other one, even though there was a lot more CGI, there was a lot more of that like upside down. Like whenever I think it's Chris that falls asleep at school before she's slashed up.
Yeah.
And like as soon as she falls asleep, like the room just like bursts into ash, and it was just this cool like Stranger Things upside down.
Yeah, it's definitely a horror movie for now. Like, I don't think that you could make, like, verbatim Nightmare on Elm Street today. Like, it wouldn't be the same. Like...
Well, even the things that they kept in, like, whenever they reused the line, I'm your boyfriend now, and then the bathtub scene. Well, then everybody was like, well, you'd plagiarize the first one. It's like, do you want them to play homage, or do you want them to... Like, or is it plagiarism?
It's one of those damned if you do, damned if you don't situations.
Right.
Like, you can change it completely, and then they're going to say it's nothing like the original, or you can do the whole thing, and then they're going to say it's not the same.
And I remember saying the same things whenever I saw it 10 years ago.
Well, I walked into it like, I mean, obviously I walked into it knowing I wasn't going to like it because...
It's not
Robert Englund. It's not Robert Englund.
Yeah.
But I definitely walked into it thinking of it as its own standalone thing and not part of a series of movies that I liked as a kid. Like, you just have to go into it.
It's a reboot. It's a reimagining.
Kind of like with all, like, the Halloween and stuff like that, like all the remakes and, Rob Zombie and all that kind of stuff. Like, he gets a lot of flack for that, but you just have to go into it not thinking of it as part of that universe of the other ones. You have to go into it thinking of it as something else.
Whenever I saw Rob Zombie's version, the reboot, the very first reboot that he did, I was actually surprised that I enjoyed it.
I enjoyed it. I mean,
I didn't watch it for the longest time thinking.
And I'm a hardcore Nightmare on Elm Street person. I am not. I mean, I will watch Halloween. I will watch Friday the 13th. They're fine. But, everyone has their thing that they love. And that was the thing that I loved. So, like, it didn't matter to me so much that you remade it. I mean,
yeah,
do it if you want to.
And I liked how Rob Zombie also went into more of the psychology of the character.
I just like Rob Zombie. He's a weird horror kid who grew up around that stuff, and he just likes it. And
I think that he did just fine with the remakes or the reboots.
Maybe stop throwing your wife in every movie you make, but it's, whatever.
Yeah,
She's not much of an actress, but,
They got their thing.
If, if I had a spouse and I could make movies, I'd probably put my spouse in my movies.
Right. Well, that's true, too.
You want to spend all day with your hot wife. I get it.
Especially when you look like Rob Zombie.
Especially when you look like Rob Zombie. You got to take it where you can get it.
I will say that I think that the actors and the actresses in the remake were a lot more... Well, were better. They were a lot more responsive to the things that were happening in the room. Like whenever Chris is... the first death scene or the first slash, and Jesse is in the room with her, and he's seeing all the same things that Rod did in the original. He's like super panicked about it. He's, you know, he's like, that's a little bit more believable than it originally.
Right.
But
one really believable scene in the original, we talked about this earlier, is when Rod is in the jail and Nancy goes to see him and they're talking about, you know, what's happening and all this kind of stuff. And he's explaining what happened. He's sweaty. He's like upset and gross. I read that the actor who played him was dealing with homelessness and depression and drug addiction.
So he was...
And in between takes, I read sources that he was doing heroin in the bathroom in between takes. So that was why he was a sweaty, gross mess, because he was a sweaty, gross mess. Yeah. And Heather Langenkamp was just like starry-eyed, like, oh my God, he was such a good actor. Like, he's acting strung out because he's strung out. Like,
yeah. Well, it's method acting.
Method
acting is what we call that.
Yes.
I also noticed too that in the remake, Freddy is a lot more conversational. Like,
yeah, he didn't have a whole lot of lines in the original.
He had his wit and his quippiness.
He quipped a little bit. He had a few, but not like in the sequels. Like in the sequels, he was just having the best time. Like,
oh, I know,
murdering kids left and right, talking to everybody. Just you know. Like a gal pal hanging out at your house.
Right.
Who's gonna rip your face open.
There's a reason I'm like this.
Yep. Hey guys, I'm back. You know, type of thing.
Yeah.
But yeah, in the original he had like, at one point I had watched it so many times as a kid, I counted how many lines he had. I can't tell you now how many it was. But he didn't have, I mean, Robert Englund didn't have like, his job was to be creepy and weird and giggle at everything. He had that weird laugh and scrape his fingers on stuff.
Yeah.
He didn't, but that's what made him so scary to me, was that he didn't talk a lot. Kind of like Michael Myers of it all. He doesn't speak, so it makes him scarier.
It doesn't give him any sort of motive as to why he's just coming after these kids.
Yeah, he's just going to kill you.
Yeah. And in the second one, or not the second one, but in the remake, he had he was like angry toward these kids.
Right.
And he would say stuff, why are you screaming? I haven't even cut you yet. You know, and all that kind of stuff. It's like, I haven't done anything.
Why are you screaming? I haven't even cut you yet.
One scene that really made me laugh then as a child, and it makes me laugh now. Nancy is running through this like alley, which is like, you guys live in a nice little town. Why is there this creepy alley?
Yeah, right.
Running through this alley, and that's when like Freddy's arms grow really long, and he's like,
and scraping the edges of it.
I'm 6 years old watching this, like,
yeah,
why?
Yeah. You know, and he would do stuff like that too.
Like, why wouldn't you trip over your arms and then he's just like tangled up in his own giant arms, you know?
Right.
Like, that's so stupid.
And they would do stuff like that too in some of the sequels to that too. He would turn into something.
It was very campy. It was very, you know, like one girl's dreaming she's on a beach at one point, and so he's like a shark coming up out of the water, and he busts out of the sun wearing sunglasses, you know? That's not the Freddy of the original. Was it the third one that they were in the crazy house?
Yeah. The part that always cracked me up was whenever he picks the kid up and crushes him into the TV.
Crushes her into the TV.
Yeah.
Welcome to prime time,
right,
bitch.
yeah.
And like smushes the head.
Yeah.
That
cracked me up. And then they're like, we got another suicide. It's
another
like,
suicide. How do you suicide yourself with a TV?
That's all like 8 feet off the ground. We got another one of those suicides.
I feel like this town, Springfield, right? It was Springfield?
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah. They just didn't really care for the kids in their town. I think they just didn't care.
Yeah.
There were too many teenagers. They were over it.
Well,
they could have just closed the mall. They would have left.
Right.
Like, Tiffany will not be appearing this Sunday at Springtown Mall or whatever. Yeah, but
man.
The third one though, one of my favorite scenes from the third one is the kid who's like makes the marionettes.
Yes.
And he's like walking out, and like Freddy's got his veins, and he's like walking with his veins. Like, that was pretty rad.
Was it also that one they turned into like the giant snake type thing and started eating, or was that a different one?
Yeah, at the end. But yeah, they picked up with the third one like the second one had never happened. They were like, nope, scrap that. We made a mistake.
The second one, I don't even. It's been a while since I've seen it, but I don't even really remember anything scary.
Oh Jesus, we watched it
happening
like last week or the week before. Oh, it was so bad, so bad. So like there was a continuation. Like the second one never happened. The third one had Nancy and her dad.
Yeah.
In it, and then that's where you meet like Kristen, who's portrayed by, is it Patricia Arquette? One of the Arquettes.
It was one of the Arquettes. I think it was. I'd have to look.
Rosanna?
It was one of them. It was Patricia or Rosanna,
I think. I don't know. One of the Arquettes. Whatever. Whichever one. Not
David.
David.
Since I've seen that, because like I said, I would usually just watch the first one.
And then like her two friends are in that, and then they follow over into the fourth movie, and the fourth movie has Alice, which follows over to the fifth one, and then the sixth one is just like completely other stuff happens.
Another thing that I found really funny in the remake is that I always think it's hilarious whenever they don't want to have to pay royalties to any of the search engines.
Yeah.
So they're doing all their
Google.
They're doing all of their searches instead of doing the Google machine or anything like that. It was called Gigablast.
Gigablast.
Like,
that's where you get your most accurate.
Hang on, let me go Gigablast that.
Gigablast it. That is hilarious.
And they did actually see wasn't it Nancy in the original that she sees Tina being drugged in the body bag?
Yeah.
And they did redo that scene
into the basement, remake. Which again, girl, if you see that in the hallway of your school, don't follow it.
I don't even think we had a basement at my school.
No, because we live in Texas. There's no basements here.
There's no basements here in Texas.
No.
But yeah, they reused or not reused it. They remade that scene.
Yeah.
Which I always thought was kind of a creepy scene with the bloody.
Oh, the creepy scene where like she's like standing there in the body bag and it's unzipped, and then like the centipedes crawl out of her mouth.
Yeah.
Nancy.
Yeah.
There's like worms or snakes or something at her feet. Like, great imagery, but they never use it again.
Right.
And she died in a bedroom on a ceiling, not covered by snakes and centipedes. So it's kind of.
Yeah, it didn't make sense. But that's
all right.
Fine. It's all about
it's fine.
Freddie, I can imagine Freddie like
he's a creative guy.
Sitting in his room all, what kind of imagery can I
do you watch Rick and Morty by any chance?
You know what? I haven't seen a whole lot of the latest season, but I have seen the first.
Did you see the episode where they parodied Nightmare on Elm Street?
Oh yeah.
Oh my god.
Yeah.
So funny.
We always have to parody. We always use a line from that. It's like, out there, not in here. Yeah, we say that all the time.
Which is what it's probably like. Freddy Krueger was married. He had a wife and kids and stuff. So
yeah, no, not in here, out there.
I'm sorry.
I'm sorry. Yeah, that's pretty funny.
Which would be super cute if he wasn't a diddler,
Right.
I'm not overlooking that. There's some things you can't overlook. I'm just not gonna.
Yeah.
Gotta hold people accountable.
Yeah.
By murdering them.
Right.
And just hoping they don't come back into your dreams and murder you right back. Like, I don't understand why he wouldn't kill the parents and the people that
did that
to him.
And another thing that made me really uncomfortable
because I assume Nancy never met this guy ever in her life as a child.
Right. And I mean the original did, but in the remake, I was just about to say that it made me so uncomfortable because whenever when they're going into their final, I'm going in and I'm gonna grab them and bring them out and I need you to hit them in the head with a pipe or something, And when she goes in, she's in a little dress and patent shoes, and he's like, "I always liked this one on you," and you're all, "No, that's." And that was uncomfortable.
Yeah.
But then again, I think that it made.
But how do you lure a diddler? You dress like a child.
Honestly. Right. Exactly.
She knew what she was doing.
They both kind of. Okay, in the original, this is one thing that I always thought was so funny too.
Mm-hmm.
So Nancy goes over to her dad, who's investigating Glenn's death because Glenn died in his blood fountain.
How do they even? There ain't no body. There's
I know, right?
How do you explain that other than some weird supernatural thing that happened?
And they're like,
your child got sucked into his bed and blown into the ceiling.
Right?
That doesn't make any sense.
And he gets there and he's where's the coroner? He's blowing chunks in there.
They don't need a body bag. They need a mop. Yeah. That's what they say. Yeah. First of all, his parents are there. Can you maybe not talk that way?
Right.
What a nice neighborhood.
So he's investigating.
Not good, apparently. He's a horrible investigator.
Right, he's over there investigating with, and Nancy calls him while he's over there. He's all picks up their phone and he's all, hey,
what's up?
Hey, honey. And she's like, hey, come wake me up in 20 minutes. Bust down the door. Mom's got me locked in. Bust in the door in 20 minutes and wake me up. I'm gonna have the guy who did
I've
this.
got the guy who did this.
Yeah.
Why would you wait 20 minutes? Just go over there.
Just go over that. And then he goes and tells his deputy or whatever. He's like, hey, watch my kid's house. And anything weird
happens in this dark house with bars in it, let me know.
Let me know. And so she goes and she falls asleep. She gets
sets up an elaborate
But here's the thing.
plan.
This is exactly what I was laughing at. She's like, wake me up in 20 minutes. And then she goes to set up 6 hours worth of booby traps. She's like stretching out
Courtney,
the wire. And so it should only take a few minutes.
She had all
You ever see the 5-minute crafts on YouTube?
I'm just like amazed that she was able to pop that hole in a light bulb without busting it.
Right. That's
like,
what I'm saying.
She deserves
did
an
that
award.
in 20 minutes.
She needs an Academy Award for that scene alone.
And then fell asleep.
And then fell asleep. Freddie,
Go. And then she finally brings him out of the nightmare. And then
like,
she
why
busts
couldn't you
the
just
window.
fall asleep and just imagine that had happened?
Right? But then she wakes up and she's got him. He's in the house somewhere.
He's in the house.
And there's like this big Home Alone scene where he's like falling into all
Very
of her
Home Alone.
traps.
Her and Macaulay would have been BFs.
Yeah, he was the original Wet Bandit.
The original Wet Bandit.
And she's screaming
Fire
at
Bandit.
him. She's screaming at him. Get my dad, come, hurry.
Yes.
And all
Bust
that.
it. Please get my
And the
dad.
deputy's standing going,
What?
well, I guess I should go get her dad. Like, she's screaming bloody murder. There's smoke starting to come out.
Yeah.
There's all that.
She's screaming bloody murder.
Well,
There has literally been a child sucked into a bed and blown up through the ceiling.
And he's like, I wonder
what you need.
Wonder if I need to do something about this. Huh. Nah.
Someone else take it.
Right.
Which is just our justice system.
Yes.
Commentary on our justice system. Falling through the cracks.
Right.
And then the crazy part too, where like wrestling. And then when the mom is like, he jumps on top of the mom with the covers.
Yeah, he's on fire.
He's on fire, jumps on top of her sleeping mother. They pull the blanket off. Freddy's gone. Where's he go? I don't know. And the mom,
she just like sinks in through the mattress
with lights coming up, and her skeleton's like, meh,
yeah.
And she gets sucked into the bed, and she's just like yelling, "Mother, mother!" Again, someone in this neighborhood has been sucked into their bed.
Right.
Stop buying beds in this neighborhood.
And Dad sees it, and he's just like,
huh. That's a weird.
Well, can you imagine that?
Then he just leaves the room.
Then it's gone. And then, he jumps back out at her, right?
Yes,
At Nancy.
Dad leaves the room. She's starting to walk away, and she feels him that he's there. She's like, I don't believe in you, blah, blah. He's come up out of the thing, and she's like, I don't believe in you. I don't believe that you're even here. I don't believe in you. I don't believe in you. And he's like, no, I'm melting. And then he disappears.
And doesn't she's like, and everything's going to be normal when you go.
And I want my
friends
friends
back,
and I want my mom
back. And
then she gets it for a minute.
But twist.
Then the mom gets sucked up into that tiny hole in the door.
Gets sucked in the tiny hole. They go into the Kruger mobile.
Yep. And I read too that Wes Craven fought with the other people in the movie because the other makers of the movie, because they wanted Freddy Krueger to be behind the wheel, not Johnny Depp. And he's like, no, I don't want that. And because it's Johnny Depp, and then like the other two were in the back seat. She gets in the car, thinks everything's normal, and then something's wrong with the car, and they can't.
So was she dreaming at that point?
Girl,
or was he already out and like now he's?
I couldn't tell you. I don't really get the end of that movie.
See,
like,
in the reboot, it's kind of the same way too. Like,
it's like, what just happened?
Like
I thought she got away. I thought everything was fine.
Right, and the remake, it was the same way. She pulls him out. They have a fight scene.
Yep.
He gets burned up.
Yeah.
Then the police show up and they're like, we couldn't find a body. And she's like, oh no.
Oh,
and
well.
then she gets home and her mom's like, is everything okay? And she's like, I think so. And then he jumps out of the mirror and grabs her and pulls her into the mirror. It's like, where are we going with this?
And how can Freddy Krueger pull the mom through the door in the house, but also be messing with the car at the same time? He's a busy guy. It's his world, I guess. He'll do what he wants.
But that's just it. Is he in Nancy's world now? Or is
Nancy in his world?
Is Nancy dreaming?
Well, and they're like, and there's so much fog. Why is there so much fog?
There's always fog.
There's always fog. Makes people confused.
I guess so.
But it's crazy. I just don't.
They always in the movies on a question mark that never really close up the movie. It's just like,
Yeah,
but that's
no.
how it ends. That's
Wait,
just
no.
how it ends.
That's how it ends, and good luck enjoying part 2, which is the weirdest thing you'll ever see in your life.
Part 2. I can't wait to get to that one one of these days. Because it makes no
That
sense.
guy, he should get awards for the screaming he did in that movie.
Right.
He screamed like no one. He's like psycho Janet Leigh level screaming in that movie.
Right.
Just insane. I'm surprised Robert Englund just didn't quit and walk away then. It was like, never mind, I don't want to be a part of any of this anymore. That's why it needs to be, I'm sorry, call me a sexist, it needs to be a final girl and not a final boy. No one wants to see a final boy.
No, 'cause the boys can always, they always win.
They
Why can't
always
we
win.
have this one thing?
Let us have this. I mean, I guess it's fine if it's a final boy.
But yeah, that was what my big question mark at the end of everything.
Yeah,
was.
you're just like,
It's
wait, what? What
Yeah.
happened?
Now, okay, they both use the line, well, you're in my world now, or whatever,
Yep.
or you're in, and then
Mm-hmm.
it's supernatural. It's not a dream world anymore, so.
And you know, like, in the original, halfway through the movie where she's like, you know, it's just a dream, it isn't real, and she could wake herself up, you know, and she's like, the boiler room and it's hot, and she burns her arm to wake herself up.
Yeah.
Why would you ever go back to that world again? Because you know that's a dream and you can get yourself out of it.
Right.
She had the point in the middle, like, I'm saying she could have saved all her friends. She chose not to.
Yeah.
She knew it was a dream. She knew she could pull herself out of it.
Yeah.
Glenn told her.
Exactly.
I just tell myself it's a dream. Like, Glenn told her in the middle of the movie, I told myself it was a dream when I have a nightmare. And then I wake up and it's, it's fine. Like,
You know what? I think that Glenn
so she indirectly killed all her friends for no reason.
Glenn was kind of asking for his, though, in the beginning, or in the first movie, because she's like, I've got a plan, and I need you to stay awake. And he's like, all right.
Well, she's like, Glenn, are you there? He's like, yeah, I'm right here. Okay. And then, like, you find out that dude was asleep the whole time.
Whole time.
Couldn't stay awake for 20 minutes.
No.
Worst boyfriend ever.
He had better things to do, like The Curse of the Black Pearl.
And be a crybaby.
And be a crybaby.
Oof.
Oh.
Crybaby.
That's one we'll have to cover one of these days.
Just like a John Waters series.
Just do a whole John Waters thing.
Hairspray.
Hairspray,
near
yeah.
dear to my heart. Well, I think that wraps up our first episode of the B-List.
That wraps it up pretty much. I mean, there's a bunch of unanswered questions.
There's a lot of unanswered questions. There's lots more to talk about. So you guys will have to subscribe, keep watching, keep listening.
Like us, share us.
Be sweet, you guys.
Be sweet.
Let's love each other.
Yeah.
I think that's what Freddie really wants us to know.
Right, you know what? Freddie is love.
Freddie, if anything, loves too much. That's what got him killed.
That's what got him killed. Love killed Freddie.
Love killed Freddie. And then, yeah, so.
All right, everybody who's listening and watching us, it's been really fun. Thank you for joining us for our very first one. I know that we're a little rough around the edges, but we're going to polish it out, and we're going to have a whole lot more to talk about.
We have a lot to talk about. We will see you guys next time, and
love you guys.
Love you guys.
Stay
Bye.
safe.
Let me call